Hello, guys. How we doing tonight? Small crowd. Glad to see you guys in here, at least. We could do a French one tonight, but gotta keep it English for the recordings because people do listen in there. Definitely a small crowd tonight, though. Should a day like this, though? Not surprised. Yeah, no choice. Gotta stick with the English. I am extremely tired. I did not sleep at all last night. So we are going to get straight into it, and it might be a little quicker than used to. I'm not going to cancel price action review because I am tired, but I am going to go quickly through it. So if you have any question or something I say is a little bit unclear, please do let me know. I will be looking at chat as always. From a daily chart, what were we looking at, right? We were looking at our key levels. So, of course, what did we have plotted? We had previous week high, previous week low. Those were our key levels. Now, forming the order block, we talked about this yesterday, right, in our weekly outlook. Well, this actually did not form the order block. Yes, it did. I just had to zoom in plenty. Yeah. So we closed above this candle, forming an order block. What did we say? Well, the respect or disrespect of this inefficiency will tell me all I need to know. And as you guys can tell, and just we'll look at it more on an intraday perspective, we definitely had a huge run to the upside, right? We were within our higher time frame inefficiency, clearly showing disrespect of this, and could frame trades to previous week high, and of course, following liquidity in that direction. But as you can tell right here, you had a lot of SMT with ES at that point on. ES previous week high was actually the high from Friday. Let me just find it. There we go. Which also lined up as previous day high, even though it's not the previous day, it's previous trading day's high. So there was SMT on the upside, invalidated, but we had some high resistance move going into New York. When price is clear on a daily time frame, there's no point in wasting time going into other time frames. Recently, I have the 12-hour up here, been utilizing it on crypto indices. Anytime I'll go down to a 4-hour whenever the daily is unclear, but as I said, daily was extremely clear for mid-a-day. Let me just go in replay mode so we can hide this, just so I don't have to have plenty of lines on my chart. What are these levels, right? These are the levels from our weekly outlook. We have previous week high, then of course we have, what is that technically? That's not November highs because November highs are there, but we can just call it higher time frame liquidity, right? Keeping things simple. So we had other liquidity objectives following it, but your main objective here, at least for myself today, was looking at previous week high. And more importantly, why, right? Why do we always do this? Well, it's always the same exact logic. We look for SMT at a key time, and well, a manipulation at a key time. So you want to see it take out liquidity at a key time confirmed by SMT. So with SMT as confluence, right? So we can see the low form here on NASDAQ. You could go to a lower time frame, spot the SMT that was present here from the fact that you can just tell with the candle lows. I'll plot it so that's a little easier to visualize. If you go on a lower time frame, these are two swing points, right? So this is what we would call divergence. Now, would ICT be proud of me for naming that SMT when there's no swing point? No, it's lower time frame SMT. But for me, I like to regard it all as divergence, because divergence tells me where there is order pairing, where market makers are placing orders. And you can also look at these two, but as you can probably tell here, if I click on it, you'll see that these levels were equal. On NASDAQ, equal is equal. Sometimes I'll look at ES, and when I see equal levels on ES, I'll treat them as if it was mitigated, but that is not logic that I move over to NASDAQ. And of course, seeing the result of the day, very trending day to the upside, but we had 10 a.m. news, right? So that whole move happened pretty much before the news. Now, we already know this is something, well, I mean, it's been a while, right? How do you know, or how can you justify trading before news, right? When are news not going to be manipulation, but they will be linked to expansion? When 9:30, forms a Judas swing, confirmed with SMT, and your key element of time, so same logic, just different time, is 9:30 open, right? New York equities open. And what do you see here? Well, there is no SMT, right? On the lows specifically. There is SMT on the high. So it's, if I was trying to frame shorts, which honestly, you did have some nice equal lows at the bottom, right? But you have to understand your weekly profile. It's NFP week. Everything is manipulation and engineering liquidity, creating liquidity that we will use further down in the week, right? To create a very volatile move. So I don't anticipate that Monday will do anything else than just trend, which is why my win rate on Monday NFP week is very good. I'm not gonna lie, I have lost today because I traded pre-market, right? And I actually tried a short here because in my mind, this level was just like on ES, how previous day high is previous week high. I got confused and did that. I really did not sleep. And after a week off of trading, I should have went low size, getting back into it. It was really, for lack of a better word, a dumbass mistake. But I mean, it is what it is. Now I'm going to be trading half risk until I return back to that drawdown. I didn't lose too much. I could have made a lot more, but I lost. You know what? I'll check after because I don't want to say a bullshit number. But losing day for me, and it's a weird one because I haven't lost on a Monday NFP in quite some time. But this leads me to reviewing it with you guys, right? And of course, when you review it with hindsight, it's a little easier to spot than when you're making mistakes live, right? I'm talking from experience. What do we see at the open? Well, we don't care, right? Because we're waiting for 10 a.m. news. There's no clear Judas swing in your direction, at least, right? You could frame this as a Judas swing higher. If you want, you can frame this wick as a Judas swing, but for me, a Judas swing has to take out liquidity, and on no asset has it taken out liquidity. So you expanded higher, then you had a high resistance retracement. And as you can see, the markets were extremely uncorrelated at this point in time. What does this tell you? Let me just draw a line so you guys can see. I'll draw the line at the same exact times, right? So I'll start the line at the same times. And as you can see from the movement here, NASDAQ is clearly going higher, right? Retracing and continuing, while ES is very clearly going lower. So SMT on both sides of the range, uncorrelated markets, this is consolidation. Wait for what? Well, it's very simple. You wait for your element of time. Now, I'm not gonna lie, you had a very beautiful setup right there at 10 a.m. Right, 10 a.m. expands high. That's not the cleanest low, but you have your breaker block right here. You still have previous week's high. Actually, previous week high was, which one was it? I do want to confirm. See, that's what I was confused with this morning. But yes, previous week high was this lower one. The one above was just any sort of random daily liquidity. So looking at this, is this a valid unicorn entry? Yes. Do you have a clear objective though? No. Sometimes these are hard to get away from, right? And of course, looking at it with hindsight, yeah, it would have worked out. But to be honest, this is me getting broken even 100% of the time, right? Just move this aside so we can see something. Right here, we consolidate a bunch for, what is that, like 20 minutes, pretty much? Yeah, 21 minutes right here. And then we expand higher, taking out liquidity. I am 100% putting my stop break even at this point in time and getting stopped out right here, which actually is what happened, but I got stopped out in a small loss just here. Very rough after 10 a.m., right? Why? The news did not manipulate. You had no reason to anticipate that the news would be expansion. This would be a very weird trade to take. But as a mechanical approach, it is a unicorn entry, which you can justify, and there was SMT present at these levels. So mechanically, this was an entry. I do want to be transparent with you guys and really look at everything, right? But I'm looking for longs. I'm, of course, not going to consider shorts, which you would have gotten stopped out 20 different times, right? But that's why we have a bias filter. Now, if you get stopped out here, is your day done? Well, honestly, on an NFP Monday like this that has already run, like, what was it at this point in time? 250 handles or something? Yeah, pretty close to 250 handles. I'm just done for the day. I'm not wasting my time. chances are it's just going to consolidate. Turns out, looking at it with hindsight, we still had another 100 handles or so into it. And when did we do that? 10.50 to 11.10 macro, right? Honestly, Emil is the best at this. He only looks to take trades 9.50 to 10.10, 10.50 to 11.10. Those are your clearest trades. In this case, you have news at 10 a.m. Not going to take that unless you get a setup right after. So perhaps you take a loss here. And then you're looking at this. 10.50 to 11.10 macro oftentimes spool against profitable AM traders. Profitable AM traders are long, but your bias is still long. What is your most recent move? Move to the downside right here that was formed with the macro. You got to understand that if we trade algorithmic principles, you got to take into consideration time. And when you come into a specific time, macro, where we know that the price action within this time window is more important, right? To keep it at the bare bones of it is more important than any given price action. And you have a beautiful sweep of liquidity right here into a higher time frame opening price. So we're thinking AMD here, right? Accumulation that we can visualize through consolidation, manipulation lower. I am not drawing them with any precision, right? So don't regard my drawings. Manipulation lower. What comes next? Distribution. Of course, once again, with hindsight, it's easy to see. Perhaps here you could have seen a reversal looking for price to go down, but it really all came down to how aggressively we opened. This, to me, it just looks like a trending day. And also taking Rise statistics, and I was looking at the news implementation is coming soon. It's not yet public. I'm still testing some stuff, but I was looking at NFP days, and they are almost always trending days, and almost always is over 80%. Don't believe me? Go look in your charts, or of course, wait for the Rise statistics analysis. Getting back into it, you have your macro right here. Let's plot it. First breaker block to form right here. You did have an earlier one on ES that formed, but in this case in time, the entry would have been the same, right? Because you're looking right here. There is SMT on the highs at this point in time. So that's something that would throw you off, right? So definitely not the cleanest of setups. Would I have taken it or not? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. This is where there's a lot of variance, because spotting SMT counter what I'm looking for against the trend or the direction I'm looking for. For example, I'm looking to long, I'm looking for SMT on every single low, but it's hard for me to look for SMT on the highs, right? So there was SMT on the lows, did not notice the SMT on the highs. Honestly, at this point in time, I was not trading because I was all over the place after the first initial loss in the morning. So I just decided to stop for the day, cut my losses while I was still living. But if we go purely mechanically, what do you see? We formed a breaker at this point in time, retracement into a fair value gap, beautifully respected, right? Perfect closure to the tick, then trade it higher. Now, again, in terms of result, is this the cleanest resulting trade? No, it would have almost returned to break even. Truth is, unless you're using a limit order here, which personally I do not, you're probably clicked in lower due to the aggressiveness of this. But if you clicked in higher and got break even too early, then definitely that was unfortunate. To be honest, once we have that high, we induce that high. I'm not going break even here. This to me just makes this liquidity better. The fact that we induced this level, we went in close proximity without taking it out, that forms relative equal highs. So that was a first objective, definitely in this case. We overlooked the stop loss. As I said, a little all over the place tonight, guys. I do apologize for that. But you have your inverse fair value gap right here, fair value gap here, and another fair value gap below, actually leaving your stop at this fair value gap, which also formed the swing low. So decent stop, 26 handle, gives you an okay take profit, what I would regard as too small, so I would never take profit here. As I explained before, when my RR is too small on where I am supposed to take profit, I instead remove the risk from the trade, right? So let's say I was going to risk $500 on this. Well, all of a sudden, I'm safeguarding this $500 due to the fact that I have a white stop compared to the entry and the move I got. But then how do you establish good levels, right, for take profits? Of course, you have the higher time frame liquidity, but that's quite far away, right? From your entry, that's what? Yeah, 100 points, which on any given day is not too bad, but on a Monday, that's something. So you get your standard deviations to get some high probability objectives. Of course, I would be very confident in us reaching this point, right? Reaching my daily liquidity level, which, as you can see, not the best of results here, but targeting the reversal range for almost 2R, as I always do. Add a few ticks to that. Well, that's a little more than a few ticks. That's 2 handles, but I would have rounded up the 2 handles just so it looked pretty with a little 2R. Definitely a hard day to navigate if you were waiting for the 10 a.m. news. And as I said, that's what I do. I always do. And the only way you could have made more money than this was by longing very early, either during London consolidation or pre-market New York, which there were some indications. But at this point in time, before this very aggressive move, I was looking to take out this level and then go short, right? Previous week high, and then short to the relative equal lows. The only reason why that did not happen is due to the fact that we were extremely, extremely bullish to this PA all the way to our news, which just led to consolidation and a high resistance expansion. And now some of you might ask me, okay, well, why aren't you looking for short right here? Well, first of all, this is during lunch, but even after lunch, for example, or why am I not looking for long at this point in time? Well, I don't trade the PM session almost at all now, unless the morning did not provide me a setup. So if there is no setup in the AM session, then it means the setups in the PM session are higher probability than any other PM session. That's what I've found through data. So the only reason why I'm trading PM is because the morning had nothing. And as for the short, you just induce the high. The same logic we see here is fractalized. You came to close proximity. This is a daily swing high, okay? 20 handles, or not even, under 10 handles is close proximity in my book. That's us inducing this level, which is good. But am I going to try and trade away from it? No. It just made this objective higher a better objective for myself. So of course not, I'm not going to try and short. And yes, you had a nice little lunch trade with 2 p.m. power of 3. Right? We can visit it, but as I said, I don't regard the PM session. If we go just to a 15-minute, right? Anytime I'm going to be trading the PM, I'm going to look at my most recent expansion range, a 15-minute. Let me actually clear those drawings beforehand. Looking at my most recent intraday range, 15-minute chart intraday, where is my first discount and efficiency? 15-minute bullish order block, utilizing the, well, that's even a propulsion block. So I would actually have a much more precise level of propulsion block mean threshold. I don't use a lot of random ICT concepts just like this, right? Of very specific, I shouldn't say random, very specific, but the propulsion blocks are definitely one of them that I like quite a bit. But of course, after seeing this, waiting for time to align, what is time in the PM session? You either are looking for a 130 Judah swing, right? Did you get that at this point in time? Sure, if you were looking to short, as I explained, definitely not something I'd be looking for. There was also here where we tapped into it. Did we form a bullish breaker at this point in time? We did not. Cool, so you could have waited. I'm filtering through all of these candles right now, looking for my bullish breaker, right? I'm trying to be pessimistic. I'm trying to look for the most mechanical entry possible, and the first breaker that formed is the one that works. Right, so when you're backtesting, you have to be pessimistic, but sometimes it just gives it to you, right? Definitely just gives it to you just like that. Let's look at the 2 p.m. opening price as well to take into consideration 4-hour power of 3 of the PM session. Once again, you have your 15-minute propulsion block technically, so let me actually write it correctly. Propulsion block, and your mean threshold right here. This is your retracement objective. Once that retracement objective has been met, What can you do? Continue to the upside. With hindsight, ugly distribution, but at this point in time, how are you going to predict that? Let me just check. First bullish breaker to form. What are you looking for after it forms? Well, a retracement into a fair value gap. Now, it is picture perfect, but I always tell you guys, volume imbalances are parts of fair value gaps. So this is a fair value gap. The breaker block is formed at this point in time, which means that on the next candle over, we form the gap, and the next candle right after, we trade into that volume imbalance, giving you your entry. If that seems a little too cherry-picked for you guys, big breaker block right here. And once again, I am just going to remove this very quickly. Big breaker block, fair value gap in your face. This one seemed a little too pretty. So I am going to go with the worst entry. Once again, pessimism first. 3PD array stop loss rule. What do you have? Is this inverse yet? This is not an inverse fair value gap at the point of your entry. So you have fair value gap here, inverse fair value gap right here. And then all the way down here, you have your last fair value gap, giving you decent sauce. Oh, I read Anar's comment at the same time. A decent stop, not decent sauce. Glad I can be of service, Anar. Definitely feeling a little tired right now. So sauce is minimal tonight, but it is what it is. Yeah, definitely not the best. And of course, guys, we're always looking opening prices. Once we flip this level, I am definitely confident to hold this. And what are your objectives, right? Same mechanical logic. When you're in a trade, you're looking for two things. Of course, your true objective, which in this case, daily liquidity above and lunch high, right? You have your lunch rate right here. You formed your swing point here. You have a lunch rate, which of course decided to retrace deeper, but this is still an important point in liquidity, right? It's session highs and lows, bare bones. You go to the 5-minute chart, you get your range, and you're looking for what, right? Just as we did before, all fractal logic, you're looking for your first premium and efficiency. In this case, it was actually liquidity, internal range liquidity, giving you a nice little partial. Definitely some low RR there once again. Wasn't the most beautiful after 10 a.m. news, like we said, but, well, I mean, you had a beautiful move to the upside right here that you could have caught. Just a little harder of a day to navigate through. These types of days, I usually just end up taking 2 losses and calling it a day, just going away. But I was surprised to see a Monday NFP like that, definitely. And then, of course, you'd be holding all the way up to the end. And of course, following this, going higher once again. But markets close at 4, right? Unless you're trading on a live account, markets close at 4. You managed to take a partial. Hopefully you trailed. I would have trailed at least to this point in time and then just have to force close at 4 p.m. So in terms of if we're being results oriented, definitely not the best day. But you still could have managed to get, what is that? We're not going to talk realized, but a 1.49 framework, plus we have a 3R framework here. So definitely some decent PA nonetheless. It was just a little harder to navigate at 10 a.m. And to be honest, I just didn't perform at my best today. So that's definitely why I'm looking at this chart and trying to convince myself that it wasn't the prettiest of days. Being honest with you guys right now. Do we have any questions about the day? Of course, we're relating to our daily, to our weekly outlook that we just discussed earlier this week. But going later in the week, there's only one place to go, right? I'm not going to frame any retracements lower. It's not going to be worth my time. So I'm going to just keep longing, keep going up. And I'm going to frame retracements into our current range when it makes sense as the day of the week. Once again, utilizing statistics to profile my weeks. Definitely an R. It was a rough one. I hadn't traded in a week, so going back to my charts, well, it is what it is. No questions, as always. Hopefully, that is a good sign. All clear. Yes, sir, Justin. When I don't get any feedback, I'm always skeptical. There we go. That's the word. Always a pleasure, brother. You guys have a great night. We'll see each other tomorrow for another one of these PA reviews. We have plenty of high probability trading days this week, so you'll have plenty of chances to review price together. Have a great night, guys. See you all tomorrow.